Hello, welcome to Reaper Ranch, Spanish Town, Jamaica. We're just here with Kevin Jodrey looking at some of our haze project. The haze project started about 6 years ago, actually when Neville and I announced that we were going to start a seed brand together. We came up with the idea of Haze Brothers. And I realized in some of my early haze work that it was utterly essential to isolate lines for haze males more so than haze females, because it doesn't take rocket science to identify an elite haze female, but haze inheritance on the male side would take an elite and knock it back to the common denominator. And so I started working on elite haze work, starting with a huge sift that we did here in Jamaica, looking through O-haze work that originally came from Sam the Skunkman, Dave Watson. And we literally had to go through about 2,800 plants to find one super elite. And when I outcrossed it back into what I thought was a great O-haze line, it fell just to mediocrity again. So we started really concentrating on haze males, and what we did was we outcrossed that female with a old-timer haze. And we found that almost like in the F1 fashion, although I'm sure they're related to some degree, we preserved that elite status of that particular clone that took us so much work to isolate. And we started at our farms in Colombia just working with going through different male lines and outcrossing them to hash plants to check the inheritance. What exactly were these males offering? And I got my hands on a C5 and a A5 clone, and the C5 was actually Meridian haze, which was a outcross between a old Jack Herer for a male line onto the C5, and then it was back crossed twice, I think, onto the Meridian. And a friend of mine crossed that back to his C5 clone in Holland and sent me the seeds. And so we put that onto a A5S1 and used those lines onto the old-timer O-haze to make our four-way line, and ran through those lines just looking for inheritance on the hash plant. The hash plant was the quickest we could run through a flowering cycle, and it inherits, hash plant really inherits haze characteristics quite strongly. And so I had my staff, who got a little tired of it, just cloning the same plant and running different haze lines until we isolated a haze male line. And most of this work is the F3 being pollinated to the F4 generation of those lines, either two-way haze, which was the original O-haze cross old-timer, or the four-way, which was the O-haze old-timer cross C5 A5. And yeah, we got some great male lines and some beautiful inheritance with all kinds of different stuff. My Oregon purple tie lines, which I've sold for years. We outcrossed a Willie Nelson, made a new Willie Nelson 2.0 version. We're adding some real spiciness to the line, but still maintaining, everything that's great about it. The Hawaiian, we took a Federation Hawaiian and outcrossed it with a four-way and bred it to now the F4. And yeah, we also inherited some work from Neville, rest in peace Neville, of his Mullumbimby Madness, Neville's Haze 15s, 21s, and some others, the Pierre Mullum, and we've done some selection work on it. And I've actually crossed the Mullum 21 to a variety of different work, including C5, and yeah, I'm quite excited to see how those come out. Really, we've been concentrating on our haze work and working with Colombians, Panamanians for years. And so now that I've started to really understand the nuances of some of these genetics, I've been concentrating on finding isolated terpenes within heirloom genetics that remind me of hazes, and I've been sequencing, stacking genetics, and trying to recreate haze from scratch, like I did originally with Skunk 1 by Acapulco Gold cross Santa Marta cross Kabul. We did it a whole bunch of different ways, and sequencing and stacking, making 50% Afghani and 25% Acapulco, 25% Santa Marta. So now I'm looking at a whole bunch of different hazes. We've crossed a Mango Biche with a blueberry just to see what the inheritance qualities were, and it actually came out like a haze. It actually clearly has haze physical characteristics and scents. And we've got a bunch of others that we've been working preamble F1s that I'm actually sharing with the community, like our Acapulco Gold. Man, I've been working on that strain for like a good 25 years, and we got a beautiful green apple phenotype that Kevin Jodrey here talked about. I mean, it literally smells like it melted down a Jolly Rancher, and it smells like sour green apple candy. But I outcrossed a whole bunch of different heirlooms with that, and I'm planning to just do a whole bunch of work with those F1s that I've produced of different Colombians and Mexicans, and just stack and sequence, digging for new elites in the haze spectrum of plants. I think now with global legalization and you know, massive increase in home growers, a lot of people are a lot more interested than they were years ago when anything over 9 weeks didn't sell well at all. And so with this renaissance of those traditional strains, it sort of puts a new value on my passion. And so I'm really, you know, pushing towards creating some super elite new haze type hybrids from polished heirloom genetics. This is my daughter, Hannah.
Hello.
And we're here at Reefer Ranch, Spanish Town, Jamaica. And yeah.
I personally do a lot of the pollinating he's speaking of, the pollen bombing of the plants. They are beautiful. The seeds are rich and dark and just one of a kind here in Jamaica for the light that we get with the outdoor growing. It's spectacular.
Yeah, the plants, the photos that I'm posting online and stuff look amazing, but we were just walking through the fields and I'm looking at these hard faded plants, and when we're making seeds we have to let plants fade to a large degree compared to what most people would consider, you know, let's say they're beyond ripe. And sometimes it's a little disheartening to watch something fade from perfect beauty, but to bring you guys the perfect beautiful seeds we have to let them mature.
Exactly.
But yeah, I've worked all over the world, you know, Jamaica, Colombia, St. Vincent, Uruguay, Europe, Canada, and Jamaica is my favorite place to do outdoor selection work. There's a certain quality to the light here that brings out resin quality that I just don't get. Not even Colombia, I didn't get the same quality of of a finish on my product that I've got here. Particularly in this area, I've tried growing in other parts recently of Jamaica, and southern Jamaica is where it's at. I mean, it's quite dry here compared to the rest of Jamaica. Yeah, soil here. Shout out to the good doctor who opened his farm to us, and yeah, we have some absolutely beautiful land. Yeah. And
they call it Sunshine City here where we're growing, and that is a very true fact. We don't really get much rain, hardly ever, which is a blessing.
We moved 45 minutes from here and it rained every day almost.
Just right up the hill.
Yeah.
But down here it's Sunshine City.
Yeah.
A little bit of wind, but besides that...
No, a lot of wind this year.
A lot of bit of wind, but besides
a lot of bit of wind, yeah. A lot of bit of wind.
It's great conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, yeah, Jamaica's an amazing place, and it's the most cannabis-friendly place on the planet I've been, and I've been everywhere. If you really want to, you know, be completely free with ganja, this is the place to come. Yeah, everybody is totally open, and there's no judgment. It's the most cannabis-friendly place probably on earth.
It's a part of the community and culture here to grow and smoke and all of that stuff.
Yeah. We're also doing a bunch of work on some old Jamaican varieties, like a lamb spread clone that we are given, which is maybe the longest flowering plant that I've ever worked with, and that's saying something. Yeah, we'll be bringing that out and doing some preservation work.
What is lamb spread's origin?
You know what? That's speculative, but I sincerely believe that, so there was no cannabis in the Americas pre-Columbus. They just didn't exist. Archaeological digs didn't exist. So I think that the landspread, particularly this line that I've seen only through my friend Baya and Bob and another guy, Rasta in Ocharias, it's very rare what the true plant, and I think that it probably was brought here with Columbus and the slaves. I think that it's that old, and I think it's why it fell to you know, obscurity is just like the prohibition model that eliminated the skunk from North America. The plants, they would get 2 crops a year. The plants were huge and hard to hide, and it just didn't make economic sense, and especially with the scrutiny that was put upon the Rastafari community here. So they had to grow short, fast plants. Just like the indoor culture, short, fast, and Jamaica was no different. So sadly, a lot of it's gone to the wayside, and even now, that flower wouldn't be well received in the community here. Because they want cushes and everything that North America wants.
They want the gas.
They want hard, fast gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
When you're looking at populations, what I got to see here that was interesting was you had Mexican, Central American, and Colombian, going into South America, all present at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to see, because what you're working on is trying to preserve the qualities from those things that you originally were made aware of, and then improve it with vigor selection, but not decrease the uniqueness of the direction. And so it was fascinating because the Mexican, the Colombian, and the Panamanian populations were absolutely different.
Yeah.
And really, it just no homogeneity, just very unique edges in the profiles and in the morphological characteristics. It was just killer to see that. I discovered today that Panama connects to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's been so much, you know, trash called Panama. I've seen so much stuff, and that variety I didn't get in Panama. That came with some of my stuff, like some of my early ties and stuff came way back from the cannabis world days through trading with heirloom collectors in America. Yeah, it's a unique plant, very inbred. You know, you look at the size of a haze planted the same size as that, and that thing is, you can tell it's been, you know, selectively inbred. And I think I popped 30 of those and narrowed it down to that one phenotype for my purpose, which was, I wanted that classic, you know, red pistol standout for making F1s. So a lot of these heirlooms really shine in F1s, but for growing, you know, a lot of them, because they're heirlooms, have been, you know, highly inbred, and often might have been, you know, bred towards one particular cutting, which really, you know, was a good thing because it preserved them. But now we got to do a little bit of you know, work on them to get them to shine. Even the land spread is super inbred for what it is. You know, it grows perfectly in veg, but it hardly stretches when you initiate flowering, which you expect, like those Africans stretch like, you know, 7 times sometimes, depending on the sun and the amount of soil under them. But a lot of those heirlooms are pretty amazing. You know, the Colombian's been in my collection for a long time, and I think that now I've got to a point where I intimately understand the characteristics and what inheritance traits are, and that's why I feel like it's now time for me to really go and pursue what I love, which is, you know, elite sativa work. I know I'm known for pink kush, and which is actually a landrace based plant too. It's just, again, highly polished Pakistani. And even though the market still wants a lot of, you know, gases and all that, I think there's enough people working in that spectrum of cannabis that I'm trying to bring something unique and old world to the market, and also a positive vibe. You know, a lot of the sativas I grow, some of them are racy, and paranoia can set in if you're not accustomed to it, but a lot of these plants are very happy plants. They're like natural antidepressants. I had a friend from Colombia who's a heavy indica smoker, and he'd never experienced what he said he didn't think like a true polished, you know, sativa, and he smoked a bunch of them recently with me, and he's like, I get it, man, this is completely different. It's a completely different effect. And I think that a lot of people will appreciate it if they can get over the the different appearances and stuff once they smoke it.
And taste.
Yeah. I watched a lot of guys that were Kush smokers get to be 25 or 30 years old, and then all of a sudden they become haze heads. Yeah, it's like a maturation in your cannabis.
What you seek and desire.
What you seek and desire, yeah.
Yeah, because we've been smoking hard the whole time we've been here, and we've just been lifted. Where and to be lifted and handle the high humidity, like I just came from cold, wet, so to come to hot and humid, and have this much energy and not be impacted by the climate at all, is just it's epic. So you can understand, like, really for the first time, the impact of the flower on the people who live there.
What they need in order
what they need
to do their
to,
thing.
to function in their world. And for us, even though I like good fuel for sit down, it just gets heavy during the day. You got to kind of fight through it, and fighting through it used to be part of the fun. But as I get older, I think I have less energy to fight through the high, and what I want to do is ride the high and let it kind of do the work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dog haze line was sort of bred with that in mind. I was trying to get something that still had this like uplifting effect, but still say would have some say analgesic pain relief. So sort of a middle ground that's still higher frequency. And
what was the dog haze again?
The dog haze is D91 cross 4-way.
To the 4-way haze.
Yeah, to the 4-way haze. Yeah, and it's an F3. These seeds are the F4 generation.
You captured some, I think.
Yeah, and they're enormous plants. They're honestly to this environment, those big, what are they, like 8 feet tall? Some of them by 6 feet wide. Those were untopped. That's a natural structure, and overall resistances to everything. They've been amazing. We had that one freak that just threw a chem out of like 65 females. We got one that was a chem throwback. Very interesting, but that's a very balanced and very friendly plant for the smaller grower, for sure. Yeah.
What we're doing here, I feel like takes a lot of patience, and the common grower here in Jamaica, they don't have the patience to do what we're really doing here. Because everything we're growing, it takes love, patience, heartache. It takes a lot to be able to grow these plants and breed these plants. So. And
cull the plants. My kids don't like it when I cull plants.
Yeah, no.
Not even my assistant Garnet. He doesn't like it.
Hide them.
He's hid plants so that I couldn't cull them before.
Yeah, and then they grow beautiful, and he's like, look what I have.
Yeah, they grow beautiful, but they have a genetic history of stress.
Exactly, which you don't want.
No, not if I can help it, no.
Yeah, you want sabali, patience and peace and everything on the farm. Good vibes.
Yeah.
How long have you been cultivating for him?
Me?
What's your first memories of I know your
growing?
Your dad's been doing his whole life. Like,
see, personally, the first time I actually stepped into growing would be when I was 18, just because I really wanted to wait until I was a legal age to work in the industry. But before that, I've been trimming and helping out. It's a family business. I didn't get paid. I was volunteering. But
my son grew up plugging little trays of clones.
Exactly.
So that he could when he was hanging out with us, we wanted to let him, like, my mom helped me understand it, where I felt bad about my son not being able to learn my craft.
Yeah.
And she was like, at the area you're in, where you live, she said it'd be a sin if you didn't expose him to what you do.
Exactly.
And so it allowed me to be able to, teach him the craft of cultivation.
Yeah.
And I have little pictures that I kept all these years of me and Dad working little stick figures, me and Dad cutting plugs.
That's so cute.
That's amazing. Before the seed blowers and the seed separation technology, my family used to sit around a friggin' dinner table with dinner plates and business cards and scoop out the seeds and remove the husks and count them. And before digital counters, my wife, when she saw the first seed blower on a video, she's like, when does it arrive?
For real.
Yeah.
And now we have a massive one back home. So
yeah, our partner decided he was going to get us the deluxe model. And I was like, okay, but I should have investigated more, because the deluxe model has like about 10% the volume of the standard model. And so it's taking me like about like 4 times, 5 times longer to blow the same volume of material. Like a 1 liter mug that plugged in, and it would deal with it all. And now I have like 150 milliliter cup. Yeah, but it's quieter, it's less obnoxious, but yeah, you definitely, here in Jamaica, I needed the biggest seed blower I could get because we're going through a lot of material, man.
It's crazy. But it's fun. We love our life here.
And we're going to make a lot of water hash soon.
Yeah, so we're going to bring something new to Jamaica here, actually, that they don't really mess around with, which is extracts. There's a little bit of more dark resins and such you'd find in the dispensaries, but no pure hash, no real shatter.
Some of the worst, honestly,
the worst.
Some of the high market dispensaries I've seen just the most gross extracts I've ever seen.
Like crude oil. They're selling as shatter.
I've seen like shatter that has leaf in it in Kea, one of the more expensive places. I'm like, my buddy from Colombia was with my partner, and we looked at it, and it was like, and they want $60 American a gram for that, man. It was just utterly like shocking. But you know, I think that the Jamaican people are flower smokers, man.
They haven't been exposed to extracts, and they're a little bit hard. They haven't been exposed.
I don't know. You know, some people think that the extracts will take off here, like the pens and stuff. I think in the tourist crowds, but I think the Jamaican people have been rolling and smoking ganja and smoking chillums for so long that I don't think these extracts are going to penetrate like they did in North America.
Maybe
to a tourist market, even uptown.
Or uptown,
it's cultural. It's
more
cultural,
of the young college kids definitely have some vape pens and stuff, but it's here and there, really. It would be great if we could bring an extract culture here.
I had the first licensed extraction lab in Jamaica, and it didn't even get used after I left the country. And it was a 75-pound closed loop system, vac ovens, everything was here. Fractional distillation, rotary evaporators, 30 liters, and none of it got used. When I left the country, I sent an expert here, and somehow they didn't get butane.
Oh, butane.
Yeah.
It's little things like that here in Jamaica that you'd actually be surprised are harder to find than elsewhere in the world. We have come through a little bit of road bumps where you have to find certain things.
Trying to find a pH meter in the entire country, there just wasn't a pH meter until my friend had to bring me one of his.
From Colombia?
No, Bayer brought us one.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a pH meter in the whole damn country.
There are lots of obstacles here, but they're easy to get over once you find out where to go, because you can't Google a lot of things here in Jamaica as well. So if you're Googling where to find a dehumidifier, nothing really comes up. You have to call and talk to people and get referrals and things like that. It's just hard to find things that are very common in North America and other places that people choose to cultivate. Here it's a third world country, so you take it as it comes, right?
Yeah, it can be challenging for sure. Inputs, just things you take for granted, just don't exist here.